So, I did one thing yesterday with a kid where they were like 2 years old or something like that, and then I just look at them, and I look at their parent, and I'm like, I'll bet you I can speak this kid's language really quick. And they're just like, what are you talking about? And I look down and I'm like, what is it? And then like literally they look up at me and they're like, oh yes, and they start speaking the same language. And it's the light language, right? It's the language of emotion, and it's the language of the heart. So it's just like, it's gibberish when it comes down to like verbal words, but it's actually a language, and it's a form of communication, and it goes deeper than the human language, because it's not blocked by the barriers of the mind. It goes straight to the heart, and it shows the depth of emotion rather than showing the surface level mind activity. And little kids in particular don't have that level of the brain activity on yet, so they don't respond to mind-based activity. So what they respond to is emotional activity, and they're almost the same way reactionary as like dogs would be, kind of cats as well, where they instead of thinking about things before something happens, they actually will they'll just react to things like in the moment, because they don't have this kind of sorry, I got a spider web on me, but they don't have this kind of developed mind of more developed, I guess, adult human being. But there's something really innocent and beautiful about the language of light, or the language of emotion, or the language of the heart, meaning about that innocence that comes with the releasing of meaning and the releasing of intention. Really, I mean, there's an intention in that language, but the only intention is to literally exclaim the emotion that you're feeling in that moment. So it's void of intention of a manipulative nature, basically. Like, you're not trying to get a message across and be heard by somebody. You're more just trying to express the way that you feel in that moment. And it's really cool, because it's like it's a language that everybody can understand. So it's an interesting kind of thing. And it shows also that language is not based on the way that your vocal cords vibrate. It's based on the emotion that sits behind the language, meaning like the verbal words. And you can get across a message just as powerfully without even using verbal language, because we as humans are emotionally we are emotionally tapped in, if that makes any sense. Like, so we automatically, when we look at somebody else, we can read their emotion before we even read their mind. And then when you become really attuned, you can actually use that emotional reading to be able to read the mind. But anyways, all human beings, though, have the innate ability to be able to read emotion off of people, and to be able to pull information from the auric field of somebody. This whole thing that I'm getting to is just kind of like a demonstration of emotional language and emotional kind of it's changing the mindset from seeing things in a flat 2D logical linear perspective to seeing things in more of the kind of like quote unquote right brain kind of way, where you see everything holistically, and like it's an interaction, but it's an interaction of emotion more than it is of physicality, and it's interactions of energy more than it is of vibrational kind of like, it's the energy that you're picking up when you're talking to somebody. It's not the words that you're saying. So the people who sit there and they worry so much about the words that they're saying are in turn really like just kind of hindering their language, because they're missing the point. They're not understanding that to get their message across, it's not about controlling the words and being extremely meticulous with the words. It's about the emotion and the energy that you come across with. And it's about the oh my gosh, okay, other way. It's about the emotion and the energy that you come across with, and it's about the wavelength or the energy that kind of message rides on. And another way you could put it, I guess, is that when somebody picks up it's hard to explain, but like also it's easy to explain because you can feel it in yourself too. Like as soon as you start to speak with somebody, you can understand, if you just go into yourself, that the first thing that you pick up on is their energy. The first thing that you pick up on is their emotional language, or the way that they come across emotionally, because that's the easiest thing for the heart to pick up on. And even if your heart is closed in some sort of, I just got bit by a mosquito right here, I think. I can feel it. But maybe that's, oh man, I hope that wasn't a spider. But anyways, sorry, distractions. I don't think it was a spider. I think it was just a mosquito. And it should be fine. But anyways, so you see, my mind goes off in the wayside sometimes. Anyways, so the point that I'm getting to is that there's this kind of level of communication that people skip over, and they don't understand the power of this level of communication, which is emotional communication. And it's a good thing to recognize also that communication, ow, gosh, okay, all right, so it's I keep getting redirected by nature. Anyways, so yeah, so I'll just go back to the form of communication one more time. So to communicate the emotion that I'm feeling right now, it would be something along the lines of you see, like it's like a combination of this kind of like reserved kind of but also at the same time it's a powerful kind of you know what I mean? Like it looks weird, it sounds weird, you would probably be looked at like you're halfway insane normally whenever you're making these noises, but at the same time there's going to be this one spot in these people's minds where they're like, I actually understood what that was meant. And they look at it and they pause for a second, because they're just like, I got something from that, but I don't want to believe that I did, because it's so out there and it's so weird. And that's kind of like the nature of everything in a way, you know, like everything it doesn't work the way that you think that it does. The linear kind of direction that you've kind of put on everything and that you think that everything works in is actually just a misdirection, and it's just it's an aspect of the whole, but it's not the whole. It's a portion of it, but it's not the entirety of it. And like this emotional language is not the only way to communicate language either. There's another wavelength where instead of moving from the heart, you can move straight from just the mind or the third eye. And that's more along the lines of telepathy and of picking up vibrations that are not even of this spectrum. So with what I'm doing, normally you would pick up the vibrations via the kind of intent and emotional like oomph that's behind the vocal cords. So you're still using your vocal cords in order to portray a message. You're just not you're still using your vocal cords. You're just not like connecting like immediately directly through thought. But there's also another level on top where you can, it still uses the vocal cords as a kind of wavelength for the stuff to travel on. But there's also a level where you can just look at somebody and then you can download what they're feeling. And that normally happens on very, very deep kind of connective experiences, but it can happen in everyday life as well. And I've had it happen in everyday life, especially after I had a huge like dark night of the soul and I first started having my awakenings, and all these like abilities and things started to like make themselves present to me. And I didn't know how to control any of it. I would look at somebody and I'd tap into that, and I'd hear all their thoughts, I'd hear all their feelings, feel all their feelings, and it would all come at one time, and it would just be extremely overwhelming. So I guess the next video will be about how to how to kind of take control of the emotions that you pick up on, which most of my videos have been about that. But it's about like picking out the ones that you choose to feel the most. Now, you're never going to be able to completely control the emotions that you're feeling, and there's going to be some times where there's the negative emotions that leak into you, and that's just the state of the world in a way, where it's so much of that's permeating everywhere that it's almost impossible not to pick it up sometimes. But for the most part, you can control your direction of thought enough to where you don't suffer from negative feelings. So you stop identifying things as being negative because you understand that all of it's coming from the same place, and your interpretation is what's causing things to change in a positive or a negative way. Nothing is inherently positive or negative. It's just the way that you look at it that makes the difference to it. So that's kind of just one of my main lessons that I talk about normally. And the next one that I talk about is using cycles to move out of continuous patterns and to basically like boost your ability to be able to evolve, right? So it's like understanding patterns and using them to cycle yourself out of other patterns. So it's basically like one example would be to see the pattern of let me do something let's go with food, right? So something that I've already kind of accomplished completely is food. And it's to see the patterns of negative intake of food and to consciously start to change each thing and to pull away the things that are hurting you and to add the things that are helping you. And the only way to notice that is to notice that the things that you're eating right now are cycling you back into a specific state of consciousness. And the only way to break that cycle is to see a different state of consciousness. And the only way to do that is through either expanding your mind via whatever you do, or by changing your diet and experimenting with the way that the diet starts to change your mind. Because everything that you put in your body changes your mind and your body at the same time as well. So with a diet in particular, the main thing about that is using the knowledge of how specific foods will cycle you back into a specific state of consciousness, and then consciously choosing to intake at least one, like you basically swap at least one food every week, and you just like, you take away your Twinkies and then you swap it with some dates, and then you take away your meat and you swap it with some kale, and then you take away your let's say I don't know, you take away just unhealthy foods, you know, your McDonald's, and then you swap it out with like a banana or something, you know. But like for me, what I did was I had the experience of the food and then how it changed my vibration so drastically, and it literally took me from being in hell to being in a heaven state. And after I had that, then it was almost easy for me to be able to experiment with all these different things, because I realized how much the food really affects the way that you feel and the way that you experience life in general. And also, I realized that you have to have energy in order to be able to do things. So if you're eating food constantly that's draining your energy and you're always feeling like you're tired or unable to do things, then most likely you're stuck in a cycle, and there's something that you could do to break that cycle by becoming aware of the cycle. So literally the first step to breaking a cycle is you have to understand that you're in a cycle, and you can't be in denial about that. It's weird because the 5 stages of grief really work also with the ways of evolving in your consciousness, because it's almost like you're grieving your old self in order to bring in your new self. And basically the faster you can go through this grieving process, the faster that you can change into a better, or you know, a more evolved version of yourself. Yeah, this is an interesting one because it started out with the light language thing, and now it's kind of moving into a just general kind of things to do to bring yourself into a higher consciousness. But I'm about to go inside and then come back out here, and then I'm gonna make another video, but not 100% sure what I'm gonna make it on yet, so we'll see. But I hope that this has helped you in some way. I know this is a lot of stuff that I've already talked about, but hopefully putting it all into one video will help people to kind of get the gist of where I'm coming from. And honestly, like, this is just this is just the very surface level of all this stuff, and it's just like a kind of really quick overview, and eventually, you know, I'll get to going deeply into all of these different topics, but you know, this stuff takes time to develop, and it's just I'm going based off of my intuition. So whatever, basically I don't even really like kind of try to plan out stuff. Like I'll just turn on the camera and just start talking, and then whatever I say is kind of just whatever I needed to say, and try not to overthink it at all, because then I end up stagnating and not really doing anything. So it's better for me to just pick up a camera and just start talking, and then just post up a video no matter what I say, just so that I can be in the habit of doing it, you know. And it helps me personally to be able to express myself and not feel bad about it, or also not feel judged or any of that kind of stuff, because like all of I put most of the stuff that I filmed I put out, and I don't really edit it or anything like that because of a specific reason. Like I don't want to edit myself, and I want you to be able to see my changes in consciousness as I'm speaking, and my emotions and my true self. And I don't want to just cut out things that I think are bad about myself, because I don't want to look at any parts of myself as being bad. And even the ugliest parts of myself, I still feel other people can learn a lot from even the ugliest parts of myself, which I haven't even gone into a lot, but I will in order to talk about shadow work. So I hope this helps out, and hope you have a good day.